Good morning, my News Media TV family. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning, and I'm wishing for everyone a wonderful and a productive day. Please leave a comment, like, and a share. And in the news this morning for October 26, 2023, trailer caught a fire on Maypen to Williamsfield Highway. A tractor-trailer transporting bulk cement caught fire on a section of the Maypen to Williamsfield Highway near Toll Gate on Wednesday night. The news understands that a fire engulfed a section of the trailer about 7 p.m. There were no reports of injuries. The trailer caught fire in the eastbound lane about 400 meters approaching the Toll Gate toll booth. Following the September 14 opening of the highway, motorists have bypassed winding and narrow roads, including porous toll-free, which will continue until year-end. The highway project included the design and the construction of approximately 23 kilometers of a 4-lane arterial divided highway on a new alignment and the upgrading of approximately 5 kilometers of the existing Melrose Hill bypass to a 4-lane rural arterial divided highway. 63 PPV operators charged for excessive fares. 63 individuals have been charged to date as the Transport Authority steps up measures to address the overcharging of fares by public passenger vehicle operators. Transport Authority Managing Director Ralston Smith made the disclosure as he addressed a press conference called by Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport Darrell Vaz at the ministry's Maxfield Avenue offices in Kingston on Tuesday. Effective October 15, fares were raised by 19% with a further 16% increase to take effect in April 2024. Smith shared that the authority has executed more than 90 operations since the fare increase took effect. We have made 142 prosecutions in total, he noted. He urged commuters not to pay $1 over and to report instances of overcharging to the authority. Noting that the authority has the responsibility to safeguard the rights and preserve the interest of the commuting public, he said the entity will not allow any operator driven by greed or other motive to exploit the public. Smith advised that 165 complaints have been submitted to the Transport Authority's newly established database, and to date 145 have been resolved, while the remaining complaints are under investigation. Meanwhile, Minister Vaz urged the members of the public to report overcharging and take a stand against the practice. He said that there are a handful of operators who are overcharging, and once people continue to take these vehicles and pay the higher rates, then the illegal practice will become ingrained. The more they resist is the more they are going to be forced to pull back, he contended. He said while the government and the Transport Authority have a responsibility to address the issue, the public has a role to play. The commuters themselves have to take responsibility, and they have to agree that they are going to report, they are going to boycott, and they are going to do what they need to do to protect themselves, because we will never have enough boots on the ground to go into every district and every community and every parish. There can only be one fare, and that is a fare regulated by the Transport Authority, he stressed. Transport Authority Chairman Owen Ellington stated that the authority has established a strong collaboration with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and some of the policing issues, which appeared for some time to be intractable, are being addressed. The very vexed issue of extortion against the public transport operators has been taken on frontally. I'm pleased to say that over the last 2 weeks, the police have arrested close to 20 persons, and they are not finished. They are going to continue the work because there is a lot of this problem to be dealt with around the country, Ellington stated. U.S. student in torture case remanded until February 2024. Matthew Hyde, the University of the West Indies Mona student, accused of torturing his girlfriend in his dorm room, has been further remanded until February 12 next year. He was again remanded when the case was mentioned before the St. Andrew Parish Court on Wednesday. Hyde is represented by attorneys Patrick Peterkin and Jenodge MacDonald. He is charged with assault occasioning grievous bodily harm, use of malicious communication, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and a false imprisonment. Hyde is alleged to have held his ex-girlfriend captive for 3 days in his dorm room in February. Prosecutors reported that the case file is still incomplete. A forensic certificate and a report from the Communications Forensic and the Cybercrime Division are outstanding. In addition, a non-intimate DNA sample from the complainant is still outstanding. Robinson calls for light rail service. Opposition MP Julian Robinson has joined the others calling for more investment in the public transport sector and is recommending the introduction of lighter commuter rail as one option. Mr. Robinson, making his contribution to the State of the Constituency debate in the House of Representatives on Wednesday, noted that the roadways in the corporate area in particular are the scenes of constant congestion which negatively affect productivity and the quality of life for most Jamaicans. A light rail service would be instrumental in easing the congestion, he said. Mr. Robinson blamed the congestion in part on government policy on public transportation, and in that regard is calling for more support to be given to state-owned Jamaica Urban Transit Company.
I'm recommending that the government commissions a study to determine the feasibility of installing light rail in the Kingston metropolitan area as a way of reducing the traffic congestion and improving public transportation. You would have to assess the routes, whether it is from Half-a-Tree to Papine, whether it's Constant Spring to Half-a-Tree, the most traffic routes, and determine the feasibility of it. What we are seeing right now is that the amount of cars that are coming onto the road on a weekly basis, we are always going to have this congestion. Whether it's monorail or you use the existing roadway infrastructure. The de-investment in the JUTC has seen this entity operating at about 40% of its capacity. At the same time, the government has doubled the number of licenses issued to public passenger vehicles. What this means is that persons have to wait hours at a bus stop for a JUTC bus. It has improved, but it is still problematic. It has improved, but it is still problematic because you're supposed to be turning out 400 and something buses. You're at about 180 or 90. So what it means is that somebody goes to a bus stop and has to wait hours. They can't wait, so they have to jump in a taxi because they have to get to school or they have to go to work. The number of taxis that are on the road cause that congestion. The competition caused the indiscipline. So yes, I'm not saying new buses don't come, but the problem is still there.
Trial delayed for cops accused of execution-style killing of wanted man. Jury selection is to commence on Monday in the case of 3 members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force charged with the 2016 execution-style killing of a wanted fugitive in West Kingston. The trial was delayed yesterday before the Home Circuit Court following a request from the prosecutors. Constables Ramon Scott, Dwayne Kelly James, and Gregory South are to stand the trial for the shooting death of Jamar Walford, otherwise called Shaba, a resident of Bond Street in West Kingston. Scott is to stand the trial for murder, while Kelly James and the South are facing charges of wounding with intent. It was reported that on May 27, 2016, the cops went in search of Walford, who was wanted for questioning in connection with several murders. It is alleged that the cops captured Walford, removed him from his home on Bond Street, and took him to a nearby location where he was fatally shot. They reported that they seized a pistol and an AK-47 rifle in the operation. Kelly James and the South are on bail, while Constable Scott, who is facing another murder charge, remains behind the bars. Chang promises upgrade to police telecommunication system. National Security Minister Dr. Harris Chang says that the police force will have a world-class telecommunication network by the end of this financial year. The Security Minister gave that commitment while addressing an inspectors symposium held at the Hilton Rose Hall Resort in Montego Bay on Wednesday. He said that the police communications system was neglected and allowed to deteriorate to the point where divisions had difficulties communicating with each other. But the government, he said, has set out to upgrade the entire P25 radio system, and by the end of this financial year, the police will have communication from end to end in Jamaica for the first time.
The police have this government have set out to upgrade the entire P25 radio system, and by the end of this financial year, the police will have communication from end to end in Jamaica for the first time. Not only efficient policing, but end-to-end communication. We're expanding the network of connectivity to ensure that all police stations will have effective connectivity and we can execute on the new station record management system effectively. In the modern world, it is impossible to function efficiently without that kind of connectivity.
Political cascades over Trowbridge continues. Member of Parliament for Manchester North Western Michael Phillips says the suggestion by his political opponent, Damien Young, to approach the private sector for assistance with the collapsed Trowbridge is impractical. When persons are seeking jobs, sometimes they don't try to understand how the process works. And I guess Mr. Young, who wants the job of MP, ought to do his research on how it is that government operates and the responsibility of an MP, Phillips said on Wednesday at the collapsed bridge during a tour with opposition leader and the People's National Party President Mark Golding. Since the Trowbridge collapsed in August 2021, school children and other residents have been using makeshift methods, including a fallen tree and a zip line comprising a rope and a bucket, to cross the river. The risky makeshift footbridge connects residents in the neighboring communities of Cowick Park in northwestern Manchester to Troy in southern Trelawney. Since the bridge collapsed, residents have had to use a 15-mile alternative commute for safety. On Sunday, Young, the Jamaica Labour Party representative in the constituency, criticized Phillips for not reaching out to the private sector. The Troy Bridge was washed out so many years ago. It is true that Phillips has talked, and all he has been doing is talk. There has been no action, and the people I recognize are tired of the talking and they want action. He could have approached the private sector a long time ago and say, let us put a temporary bridge, even a footbridge, until the government completes the procurement process, Young told the JLP's Manchester North Western Constituency Conference in Mile Gully. However, Phillips pointed out that there are guidelines to be followed to repair or construct government infrastructure. If it was for the private sector being able to build the bridges across the island, then I guess Jamaica would not have any bridges that would need any repair. As MP, I cannot put up a walk-foot bridge. I can't solicit materials from anyone, because if anything was to happen to anyone crossing that bridge, then I would be held liable for that, he explained. Any infrastructure that is being built has to be with the permission of the National Works Agency, as this is an NWA road. As MP, I cannot just go and say I am going to build that bridge without their permission. So before people speak, I would urge them to at least do their homework and to not try to give the people a narrative that is not realistic, added Phillips. He continued to criticize the government for its response to the collapsed bridge and accused the government of victimization. The frustration is that something that should be an emergency should not have taken 2 years, as I was told by the NWA. The procurement is still with the Ministry of Finance, who after 2 years is trying to determine if this should be dealt with as an emergency. I have said to the Prime Minister Andrew Holness that this cannot be so, he said. There are multiple other communities here in Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and right across the island that have a similar situation like this, and if we are really to serve the people, we cannot respond in the manner that the government is responding now. If it is that they are trying to victimize me, then that is another case, but don't victimize the people. Right now, after 2 years, that is what it is really like, victimization, added Phillips. Golding shared a similar sentiment as he pointed to the dangerous commute for residents. The fact that it has taken so long suggests to me that the government is not treating this as a priority because they don't happen to have this as one of their seats, and that is not the right approach. The people of this area voted for both parties, and they should have their bridge restored so that they can go about their daily lives, he said. It is a very disruptive situation which is affecting the prospects of the children in this region. Many of them had to change schools because they can no longer access the school on the other side of this river and have to be going to other schools in St. Elizabeth and so on. It is an untenable situation, and it needs to be addressed, added Goulding.